Heart and Soul miniseries Adventurelands, Part 27. I needed a lie, and a good one. Soon. I wasn't sure how much I could say about the demon or what had happened to it. I hated to lie, but it was a matter of my safety. I started nervously. I was wandering home from the training grounds after I exhausted all my magic. Since I was excused from class until I'm able to figure out how I can shape my spells, better. I, I kicked myself in the mind for already oversharing. Then I just kind of passed out. I think I used too much magic for the first time. She glared at me appraisingly, clearly not believing anything I'd said, but unable to figure out how to call me a liar. After a moment had passed, she sighed and shrugged as she stood to leave the room, while saying, "I'll go get your discharge papers ready." A moment after she left the room, she walked back in, saying, "Good morning. I didn't get to introduce myself yesterday. I'm Dr. Beach. How are you feeling this morning?" I stared at her, very confused, as I asked, "What? But you just..." "I'm doing much better today. Did you enjoy your duality day?" She looked at me confused for just a moment this time, then said, "I did. Thank you for asking. I'm glad to hear you're doing better today. Do you feel good enough to head home, or do you want us to check anything else?" Before answering, I sat staring blankly at her for a long moment. "No, yeah, I'm okay. I think I can definitely go home today." "Okay, I'll go get your discharge papers ready, and we'll have you out of here in no time." She spoke while wearing a big smile. I stared back at her, still blatantly confused, but she either didn't notice or didn't care. Then she made a few notes on my chart and headed out the door. In no time, a nurse came in and explained the discharge procedure. It was as easy as one could expect from a hospital. I had to sign a bunch of things that I didn't read and agree to have the headmaster mom pay for the healing. The trip home was, for once, uneventful. I made it home in no time, and before I knew what was happening, I was in bed again, completely asleep. Somehow, getting home had been such a relief that I passed out very easily. The next day, when I woke up, the first thing I did was practically run to the training ground with my controllers. This time, when I got ready, I specifically kept my mind as clear as I could. As I pushed the A button, I threw my hand forward. To my surprise, I could feel the magic pushing its way through my controller and shooting out the end. It came out as a huge black bolt flying straight to the target and dematerializing it. I stood staring blankly for longer than I realized. Before I understood what had happened, my mom put her hand on my shoulder, causing me to jump out of my skin. She was staring as blankly as I was at the destroyed dummy. What what did you do? No, shut up. More importantly, how did you do it? Ah, Mom, so I've asked you several times not to sneak up on me like that. I ran here at full speed with my armor on. How did you not hear? Whatever. How, girl? How? The dummy is gone. What happened to it? I just used a normal attack like I saw everyone else doing, but they barely reacted to anyone else. How, girl? How? Tell me what you did now. I was still in more than a little shock as I somewhat vacantly told her, I I wasn't thinking about anything. I can only cast when my mind is entirely clear. I have to envision nothing." "Ah, so that's it," she said with a wicked smirk slowly spreading across her face. "Okay, you've done enough for today. Head home and get some rest. You don't need to sleep, but I could feel that spell from my office. It must have drained a lot of your magic, so go rest and recover." I nodded somewhat dumbfoundedly as I put my controllers back in their holsters and headed towards my new dorm room. I laid in bed for a while, still dumbfounded by the power of the spell it unleashed. I knew that it was off the charts, but I had no control over the form or function. I could barely even control its direction. I knew this kind of power could be used in combat, but only as a last resort. I wasn't sure what to make of that, and for the first time, I actually wanted guidance from the gods. I considered going to the CNE, the Church of Necessary Evil, but I felt a strange call to pray to the god of attack power, aim, and petty silliness, Alex. He was always said to be the most absent of the gods. Lazy. Unless, of course, Linny had involved herself in something. Then nothing would stop him from doing what he needed to do. I made my way to the church and took a seat in one of the back pews. I was breathing slowly for a while, semi-meditating, doing my best to keep my mind completely clear. I didn't even notice when my body moved on its own. Eventually, I just looked down and noticed that I was standing up with my controllers in my hands. Before I knew what I was doing, I pushed the A button at the same time that I pulled the B trigger. I knew from my time sneaking around in the vents that this was the way to teleport, but not only had I never tried this spell before, since I wasn't envisioning anything, I had no idea where I would wind up. When I opened my eyes, I was astonished to find myself in a well-lit, windowless room. Hanging in front of me was a huge tattered banner that said, "Finders Keep." There was a huge shelf of books off to the right, and the room was full of class desks that were obviously stolen from Kathioris, Mom's school. I quickly decided to go to the bookshelves and grabbed the first book. I sat down at one of the desks to read. The author was unlisted, and the subject matter seemed highly theoretical. It was mostly about how the gods had been born and what the demons really are. According to this book, the entire world we live in is a simulation made for a game, overseen by digitized copies of the humans who had created the game. Those copies had been given free rein to do whatever they wanted in the world, and were also given a pet that had almost as much power and, supposedly, no free will. Those pets are the demons. Demons must obey any direct orders given to them by the gods, but can ignore anything else they choose to. I kept reading everything as quickly as I could, doing my best to absorb it all.